Hello and welcome to the coming conflict on April 6th, 2023, 2 days after the Republic died. My name is Tom, of course, and we have very sad times indeed. But as sad as these times are, I'm going to still have to ask you, please, if you're watching this video, subscribe if you like it. Especially on Rumble. If you're on YouTube, follow me on Rumble. Also, follow me on Getter, Truth, and Twitter at Coming Conflict. But anyway, enough of that. Let's get right into it because we are living in just stupendously insane times. And I want to start off with something here. All right. If you didn't catch last night's podcast, the Hangout over at Rethinking the Dollar with me, Mike at Rethinking the Dollar, and Andre the Broke Capitalist, I'll leave the links to their channels and the podcast down in the description. We went into some of these things, and the time that we are living through, when I say the death of the Republic, it's not hyperbolic, it's factual. We've crossed the Rubicon, so to speak. There's no going back from where we were. Going back to where we were. Everything has been weaponized, okay? And all of these societal revolts, they call them revolutions. But there's a difference between a revolution in the sense of the American Revolution, this organized action, this organized thing that happened to declare freedom from an oppressive tyranny and then immediately devolve power to the people versus the revolts that they call revolutions. They're two very different things, okay? But what we're living through right now is very similar to a lot of different historical events, and I want to get into these so that maybe it can get your head turning. And then after I go through all this, we're going to get into what we can do, what you and me and your family and the people you love can do, because it is not a foregone conclusion that America is dead. The Republic might be dead, but it is not a foregone conclusion that we, the patriots, the sound money folk, the gold bugs, the libertarians, the people who care about the things our founders cared about, it's not a foregone conclusion that we cannot be the ones that rebuild this. So right now we're suffering through this long march through the institutions, okay? Just like in the French Revolution. We have the family being broken. The economy's just collapsing right now. The corporations have been weaponized. The media has been weaponized. The judicial system has been weaponized. The police have been weaponized. The entertainment industry has been weaponized. There is no border in this country anymore. Everybody wants to compare us to Rome, and I can see that to a point. I can see where the Roman Republic, when that fell, and I did that video on the Ides of March, when the senators assassinated Caesar. That was 2020. Okay? That was the death. That was the equivalent to us as Rome. Outside of that, we do have similarities in the Roman Empire collapsing with all the things I just said, the societal problems, along with the debasement of the currency and the expansion of the empire and no way to fund it. Like, yes, there are those similarities, but I think what's happening now is much more similar to other societal revolts that they call revolutions. Like, for instance, the French Revolution, the Jacobins, and Robespierre. Robespierre was a lawyer, okay? And he was the man who was famous for the Reign of Terror, I believe is what they called it, and the long march through the institutions, destroying the rule of law, and then ultimately ending up with the murder of the aristocracy. But why? Why did that happen? Because the economy was collapsing as the population was expanding in France, there was no food, so they Robespierre and his ilk focused this collective free-floating anxiety, and they pointed it at the aristocracy. And then we know what happened with Marie Antoinette, and how much of that is romanticized in history, we don't know. But the end result is the same. And you have the French Revolution. You also have the Bolshevik Revolution in Russia in 1917, I think. And it was basically the same thing. You had the serfs in what was Tsarist Russia, and then you had the Industrial Revolution come in. So you had these pockets of Russia that were more industrialized and more wealthy, and Lenin and the Bolsheviks came in, and they took the people's anger and angst, and they focused it on the industrial towns, and they killed the czars. I think Tsar Nicholas was the last czar. I believe they took him captive and his children captive, and I think the Bolsheviks end up murdering him. I am not a scholar. I'm trying to take this off the top of my head. We also have Mao and the CCP. Mao took power through war in the 40s, but I think it was in the early 60s is when he did the Cultural Revolution. Why? Because the economy was cratering. There was no food. So what did Mao do? He said the four olds have to go. You got to get rid of the old society, the old culture. All of these things need to go. The capitalists are your problem. So what happened? He instructed the young people to go and rat out their teachers, their parents, the landowners, the people who were wealthy. They executed them. And that was the Cultural Revolution. And famine and hundreds of millions of people died. But do you see a trend here? Economic issues, then you get a revolutionary type movement, usually socialist or communist in nature. They come in, they focus the people on a single issue, and they make them attack. And I know what you're going to say. I know what you're going to say about what I'm saying. Oh, isn't that what Donald Trump did? No. Donald Trump it was almost an anti-revolutionary force, but we'll get into that. We'll get into that, right? After Mao, you had two simultaneous events happening, okay? You had the Roaring 20s and the progressive eugenics movement that came from that, all right? And then you had the Great Depression that led directly after that in the 1930s. After the Great Depression, you get what has now become the American socialist framework that we live under. All of these social programs, okay? The government spending to make sure people aren't poor. And then across the pond in Germany, you had the Weimar Republic and hyperinflation, and you had Hitler saying that this hyperinflation was the problem of the communists and then the Jews, and we know what happened from there. World War II ended. We became the world reserve's currency. But during that time, we also brought a lot of Nazis over here during Operation Paperclip. The progressive movement never went away. So after the Great Depression, we get the American progressive movement. Then we import the Nazis' progressive movement, this National Socialist movement, the Nazis. We import their scientists and their thinkers over here. And then you fast forward to the American left arresting Donald Trump. Now, they're not killing Marie Antoinette in the street. They don't have a guillotine out for Trump. But it's the same thing. We're living at the end. This is the end of the Republic. While it might not have been as bloody or dramatic as these past events I just referenced, our American progressive movement that was born before and after the Great Depression and World War II has finally come to power. Okay, they've collapsed our borders, our currency, our family. They've distorted everything about our country. They've labeled our founders racists, our founding documents extreme. and they've arrested the man who pledged to make America great again. And it's a sad day, because if you can't see the similarities between all of these things, then I don't know what to tell you. Because on top of that, let's add one more similarity. Right now, we're going through probably the greatest economic crisis in all of history for the entire world. If you look, you can see on my screen over here, the last war we can afford to fight, Tucker Carlson sounds off alarm on de-dollarization, slams Biden and admin for pissing off the world. And that's the truth. It's not going to happen overnight, but our debt is insurmountable. We owe something like $31 trillion in debt as a nation. There's $182 trillion in unfunded liabilities that we will owe. And the numbers just don't make sense. We can't make this work. Okay? So the only way out is to hyperinflate like Weimar Germany or straight up default. Either way, it's going to be catastrophic, and either way, it's going to happen. I predict by this fall, hopefully it's not that soon, but you guys all need to get ready. And I was talking to Andre and Mike about this. We need to start the conversation that even if we lose reserve currency status, and even if they do try to push a CBDC on us, it is not a foregone conclusion that we, patriots, and the people who love this country can't be the ones to rebuild it. It is not a foregone conclusion. We need to be the first ones to the rubble to start rebuilding the building that is America. We need to be those people. We need to reject CBDCs outright. You watching this video right now need to go to your local business owner and say, hey, if CBDC comes around, can you pledge that you're not going to accept it? Do little things like that. Start the conversation. Okay? Because this whole idea that the BRICS nations are going to back their currency by gold is a joke. If I'm not mistaken, the only time in history that a government instituted among men actually devolved their power to the people. The only time that happened was in 1776 with our founders. So the idea that the BRICS nations are going to hamstring themselves so they can't print money ad infinitum to fund their wars and whatever else they want to do is ridiculous. If they put their money on a gold standard, they can only do so much. And that's it. It gives the people control. And I'm not sure if you've looked at Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. The people really they don't have a lot of control over there. So it's important we start having this conversation. Say no to a CBDC. Say no to anything that takes you as the American citizen. You are the sovereign in this nation. You are the sovereign. You always have to remember that. Just because the Republic is dead doesn't mean America and the idea of America is dead. We, the patriots who love this nation and believe it is exceptional, it is the best. It is the best thing that has ever happened on this earth. We need to be the ones to rebuild this thing. And we have to start doing it now because the situation is dire and time is short. I'm going to leave it there. But just ask yourself, what is your task and what is your purpose? And if that answer is to save this nation will be saved. My name is Tom. In the information war, knowledge is power, awareness is victory. God bless you guys. Have a brilliant, lovely, holy Easter. And I will talk to you next time. Thank you very much for watching. Have a great day.